That's the whole Nagun. I can't hear you yet. One more time. Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. Rabbi Falcon.
So some of you recognize the guy behind the piano. We got a Steve and a Stephen. For those of you who didn't read the announcement in wherever the announcements were made, Jack and Jenny are taking a sabbatical from doing music. Last weekend I was speaking at Unity of Whidbey, and Steve Mason was doing the singing, and Ruth and I were with Stephen and Sheila Merritt. And all of a sudden, we had 2 music people for today. For those of you who don't yet know Stephen Merritt, when Ruth and I came to town in 1993, we knew 2 people, Don and Gail. And we came here in July, and in August, they invited, I don't know where they invited everybody they knew, but they invited everybody they thought might be interested in what I wanted to do for the Jewish high holidays. Because I have an addiction to leading Jewish high holidays. And there was this sizable group of people, and at one point I said, I need somebody to help with the music. And Stephen Merritt, who then, coincidentally when I came, the place I found to do the high holidays was Unity in Bellevue, Unity of Bellevue. And a guy raised his hand, and it was Stephen Merritt, who coincidentally was the music director at Unity of Bellevue at the time.
And Mary Sue was there.
He knew Mary Sue was there at Unity of Bellevue. It's kind of amazing. At the time, I think Stephen knew one Jewish song.
Avanagila.
Yeah. So that first high holidays, we sang that a lot.
Well, we did it slow and then faster.
And Steve Mason, coincidentally, like the last time you did Spiritual Saturday with me, you also did the Sunday Unity of Whitby with me. So we are following in that tradition, a little delayed, because I think the last time was one right after the other. So we're very lucky. All you have to know about them is that one of them is a PH and one of them is a V. Now you understand. Yeah. Stephen Merritt is a PH and he is Stephen. Steve Mason is a V and he likes Steve. And I am just so delighted and so grateful to have both of you. So I'm going to leave now and listen to There's Only One Place to Be.
How many of you know this? Raise your hand. Oh, good. That's nice. There's only one place to be, that's in this moment. There's only one thing to do, and that's be present. There's only one thing to have, and that's unending gratitude for being in this present moment. It's true. There's only one place to be, that's in this moment. There's only one thing to do, and that's be present. There's only one thing to have, and that's unending gratitude for being in this present moment. There's only one place to be, that's in this moment. There's only one thing to do, and that's be present. There's only one thing to have, and that's unending gratitude for being in this present moment. For being in this present moment. For being in this present moment.
Hey. Yeah. Yeah is kind of hey backwards. So hey in Hebrew would be yeah. It's a lot better. Some people wear chai, the Hebrew word for life, like on a thing around their necks. Chet, yud, chai, and if you read it correctly, you're reading right to left, because that's the way Hebrew goes. But people who might not know Hebrew goes in that direction, it spells yich. And sometimes I think that's how life is, you know, when we look at it one way, it's really life, and we dip into looking at it a different way, and it's not so. So I wanted to talk about enlightenment as a way into talking about the spiritual journey. And what I did, I decided to consult DuckDuckGo. How many people know what DuckDuckGo is? Okay, for those of you who don't know, you know what Google is. Google is a search engine, and it's a wonderful search engine, but it collects everything we ever search for. So anything you search for, if you pay attention, is going to show up as an ad. Because somehow now the whole universe knows what you looked for. Which is an interesting thing, because it drives life backwards. Like, it presents what we looked for in the past, rather than supporting us looking forward. Which is an interesting thing about information and data that is collected about us. You know, because it's always representing what was, and it kind of challenges us to somehow get ourselves out of the well of what was and into the spring of the moment. At any rate, I consulted DuckDuckGo with the word enlightenment. And this is the first thing that showed up on the feed. Shop Enlightenment. Amazon. Free 2-day shipping with Prime. I ordered 3. I mean, then I started looking at the other things that came up, and it was remarkable. There were teachers and teachings that gave 4 steps to enlightenment. There were others that gave 6 steps to enlightenment. Then there was one that was 9 steps to enlightenment. I knew that was too many. 1 month to enlightenment, the course to enlightenment. So I decided to look at, I think I looked at the one with 9 actually. So the ways to achieve enlightenment, you ready? You might want to write this down. 1, be honest with yourself. Not bad. Not bad. 2, kill your ego. Be honest with yourself and then kill yourself. But I liked the third one because the third one said, embrace your fears. And if you kill your ego, who the hell is around to be afraid? The fourth one was forgive people in your... oh, man. So I'd like to tell you how many steps there are to enlightenment. Ask me how many steps there are to it. There aren't any. Oh, this is the hardest thing to understand. Look, the ego lives in a linearization of time. It's just how the universe appears to us. It's how we experience ourselves moving from past to present to future continually. I love biblical Hebrew because biblical Hebrew has a whole different take on the tenses of past, present, and future. But English as well as modern Hebrew has literally past, present, and future. Biblical Hebrew didn't have that. Biblical Hebrew was much more of a right hemisphere language than a left hemisphere language. It's part of the reflected in the fact that it goes from right to left. It's a different consciousness. So there are 2 basic tenses in terms of time. One is called the perfect tense, and that relates to action which has happened. And I don't know who named it the perfect tense, but that's really fascinating. Everything that happened was perfect. Boy, talk about a challenge to the ego. But talk about thinking about it that way. It's perfect. There's no shoulds. And then there's the imperfect tense. And the imperfect tense is fluid. It can relate to something that is not happening and will happen. It can relate to something that is happening now and will continue to be happening. And it can relate to something which has been happening, is happening, and will be happening. That opens things up. And it also allows the possibility that what we perceive as this linear track of past, present, and future, it's all happening right now. You know I've given up seeking to awaken to the now moment. Everybody talks about the now moment, be here now. Well, there is no now, because every now is now there's now, now there's now, now there's now. Every time I say now, it's gone. When Heraclitus said you can't step into the same river twice, I'm absolutely convinced you can't step into the same river once, because it's never the same river. Now is a process. Now is not a static moment. This whole idea of staticity, staticity, things standing still. So we take a spiritual journey and we call it a spiritual path, and we imagine we start the spiritual path someplace, and then we are aiming for someplace, which makes total sense to the ego, because that's, you want to get someplace, well, let's get a map. We often confuse the map with the territory. One of the uniquenesses of my relationship with Stephen, which is going to make sense to no one, is that he is the only other being I've met who has read Alfred Korzybski's book, Science and Sanity.
I would say waded through it. I wouldn't say...
Korzybski was one who said the map is not the territory. It was an anti-Aristotelian philosophical view. You know, once again, things are always moving. So one of Korzybski's things was every place, everything has a comma rather than a period. Everything has to be annotated. Like I am annotated. If you want to know who I am, you got to annotate this is this date at this time. But this is not static. This is like process. So a lot of times I'm very clearly aware that the spiritual journey is unlike any other journey. Spiritual growth, spiritual learning is unlike any other kind of learning, because any other kind of learning, we find a book, we find a teacher, and we get something from the outside that we can then repeat, we can then understand, sometimes we can even teach. Spiritual learning is different because we already come with everything we need. Spiritual learning is different because we don't know that we've come with everything we need. And so the ego just loves to hear how we get there, which is really how we get here. How do we get here? What an interesting thing. How many steps does it take to get here? Really? And the ego actually would buy a book called 4 Steps to Getting Here. I love to look at self-help books. If you look at a bookstore, and there are precious few around, one of the most populated shelves are the ones that are called self-help or spiritual. And it's just amazing how many people promise this is the way. Oh, I confess I've bought so many books until, it's not that I don't buy them, but now I appreciate what they really are. I appreciate that all those books are memoirs. Every self-help book is a memoir. And it tells us about the author. And the author is trying to conceptualize some experience or some learning that she or he considered to be of great value and believes will work for everyone. And sometimes I wonder, do some of those authors believe that their book will finally be the final book on awakening? We won't need any more. I think about that in terms of poet. You know, is there a notion that there will be a poem written someday that'll be the final poem? Nobody else will ever have to write a poem. I mean, just... Gene Houston used to say that the real challenge is to put the first human being on earth. Love that. But if the first human being, you know, the fullness, incarnates, will we be done? Well, we've done it, so, I mean, just... So here's the problem. If there's no steps to enlightenment, how the hell did we get there? I didn't actually say hell. This is... oh, hell is actually a Hebrew word. No, this is true. This is true, and as a kid, we loved this. Oh, hell is a tent. Oh, Helim are tents. So I was just referring to a tent. Either fortunately or unfortunately, some of the other words we use don't have such convenient Hebrew equivalents. So you don't have to worry, I'm not going to use them. I'm saying this for the streaming audience, since you never know when they might be listening. I mean, I could tell when you are because I see your eyes glaze over. I love being here with you. Usually I say that at the end. But it's always such a gift. So what if you're already enlightened? And our problem is not that we are not enlightened, our problem is that we don't know it. So the real question then becomes, how do we awaken to the reality that is already the reality? And it always seems to me that one of the first steps in the process is to get clear on what an altered state of reality is. We used to call it ASC, an altered state of consciousness. And in the old days, I understood that we went into an altered state of consciousness when we took some substance, preferably a hallucinogenic substance that got us into an altered state of consciousness. And then it started becoming clear to me that this is the altered state of consciousness, that I was looking exactly backwards. The altered state of consciousness is a narrowing of an incredible field of consciousness into a particularity, into an exclusivity, into a contraction. of separateness. And because each of us needed to learn how to manage this material reality, finding ourselves in this incarnated state, we developed a tool to do that, and the tool we developed is called our ego identity. And each and every one of us have been working on this all our lives. And as far as I can tell, if the purpose of our ego identity is to help us survive in the material world, then each and every one of us has succeeded. I mean, here we are, more or less. I heard you laugh. Now, was that a laugh from the more or from the less?
Yes.
So what I'm curious about always is who created the ego identity? You know, did our parents do it? Did our friends do it? Who did it? Boy, the light is right. I know from your point of view, it's distracting, you know, it's like a challenge, but wow. I mean, what is enlightenment? You clearly, Linda Babin is enlightened. Actually, Tova is not doing so bad either. It's really cool. I could stand here and just watch people get enlightened. So in this process of nowness, who else is happening? And from my perspective, it helps me to wonder about the one that created Ted. I mean, for those of you who've known me for a while or listened to me for a while, I've done a pretty good job. This is the best Ted I know. This is also the best I'm able to do at the moment. You know, but if you just think about your own self, attach your name, and we've been working on it. We recognize ourselves. We're consistent enough so that other people seem to recognize us. In which case we've succeeded at that creation, but we forgot that we did it. And the one who did it isn't owned by it. The one who did it owns it. There's somebody for whom Ted is a story. And there's somebody who is the storyteller. My mother used to say when she would find me doing something that she felt was inappropriate, she would say, "That's not like you." And I would always wonder, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? Who is it like? I mean, I understand it's not like who you want me to be. It's not like who you think I should be. But it's clearly me. If we could recreate our parents, or if we could be the kind of parent we wished we could have had, it would be the parent who watches the child grow and goes, "Oh, that's who you are. Oh, that's who you are. Huh." So I want to know, if I am in this moment a particularization of a greater consciousness, if I am a specific of a universal, where's the universal? Well, there's only one place for it to be. There's only one place for that to be, and that's in this moment. And it's hiding. And it's always hiding where we would least find it, because it's hiding in plain sight. It's hiding where we least suspect to find it. It's hiding right behind our eyes. And this is beautiful about the English language, because if I say it's hiding behind my eyes, we have these. And if I say it's hiding behind my eyes, we have these. Our eyes, our identity. So what's behind my eyes and what's behind my eye? So, an incredibly wise teacher did I ever tell you the story of my dream of the wise teacher? Does anybody know a place called Ojai, California? So Ojai, it's, I think, northwest of Los Angeles, like pretty deserty, and a very well-known teacher named Krishnamurti taught there. And I remember going to hear him, and I reference that because the dream I had was reminiscent of the environment in which he taught. Like, it was outside and he would be, and then there was kind of a hillside, and a bunch of people would be sitting there listening to him and trying to focus on him because it was difficult because he kind of shimmered. So in my dream, I don't remember it being him, but I was sitting with a group of people and I was listening to this very wise teacher. And it was time for a break. So I decided I would really like to just be alone and sit quiet for a minute. It's almost like I was too much input already. It's like how you feel when I keep talking. And so I found myself a spot and I sat down, and as I'm entering the silence, all of a sudden there's a buzzing and there's some insect that is attacking me. And I said, not now. Really, just leave me alone. And but it was insistent, and it kept landing on me, and I looked at it, and it was this like translucent kind of insect. And I swatted at it, and I finally got it, and I was so happy, and I sat there and just enjoyed the silence until it was time to come back and sit and listen to the teacher, who started his talk with an interesting bit about enlightenment. He said, for some people, enlightenment is a lifelong journey. Sometimes it's more than a lifelong journey. But for some privileged few, instant enlightenment comes in the form of a translucent insect whose bite transmits full and perfect enlightenment. That's the story of my life. So there was a very wise teacher, and the wise teacher was about to make his transition. And he didn't know what to do with the wisdom he'd acquired, you know. So what he did was he picked 3 of his, most able students. And he imparted the wisdom to them. And he made his transition. And the first student, well, she went out into the marketplace and just wanted to share this wisdom. And to everyone she met, she just wanted to talk and wanted to share and wanted to give it to them until it got to the point where if anyone saw her coming, they would cross to the other side of the street. Leave me alone already. The second student, well, he saw what happened to the first student and thought he would present it in a different way, and so he decided to present it in a very expensive seminar. You know, because if it's of value, people have to know it's of value, and the way they know it's of value is that it costs a lot of money and not everybody can have it. And that student presented that seminar, and at the end of that seminar, then told participants that they are now able to register for the next seminar, which actually will give them. And while you're at it, I think it would be a good idea to bring more people into this seminar so that we can all be enlightened. And the third student who was watching this, you know, because it went on for a while, and then it didn't. Promises unkept. You know, a world that's supposed to heal itself. People who are supposed to heal themselves somehow never getting there. So the third student, she watched the activity of the first student, and then she watched the activity of the second student, and what she decided was to simply tell the story. And I often think I would like to be that third student. And I'd like to be able to tell the story.
So, this is a memoir. I wrote this not thinking, boy, if I tell this story with this song and everybody follows along with exactly what I say, well, then I could do a seminar series. And this is more like my whole belief around music is the idea that, you know, it can inspire and inform and translate things so that we can each take away what we take away and hopefully sometimes be moved by it, you know. So my friend John Gebhardt and I were in a songwriting class, 15 years ago. It was collaboration week. And I had these words, but I didn't have a melody, and he was more of a melody kind of guy. So John and I came up with this very prophetic, I say that tongue in cheek. Where you been? Where you been? Playing in the field, my kids dressed in smiles, hanging on to all that just a little while, running with them, kicking a red ball a country mile. Well, it makes this life worthwhile, worthwhile. Sitting round the fire, friends around the flame, love surrounds the campsite, playing late night games, telling silly stories, people laughing just the same. We stumbled on this timeless refrain: you can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. The sweetest things in this life are your soul's best friends, and if you let them all inside, you won't regret it in the end. You can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. Well, my mom had quite a smile, and Dad a piggy grin, their brightest little star, though it started to dim. Now it wasn't what they dreamed of, but they still live within, and they color all the places that I've been. No, you can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. You know the saddest things in this life, they'll come back again, but don't you lock them up inside, or you'll regret that. Oh, my friends, you can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. You can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. You never put your foot into the same stream again. And if you let that all inside, you won't regret it, all my friends. You can't be who you be till you've been where you've been. Where you've been.
It's actually kind of remarkable that you wrote that story for this morning. Did it change? No, we call that enlightenment. You know, it's all depends on the story we tell. I mean, think about it. We are walking stories. Ted is a walking story. I've memorized a lot of it. You know, so there's a kind of consistency which is sometimes not terribly helpful. Because one wonders if I'm telling the story, what actual rights do I have to it? Like, I wonder if I could change a few things in my story. It's hard to change things in your story because John is looking at me with eyes of deep wisdom. Isn't it hard? Did you get that? Did you hear that? There's nothing more to say. The story is the story is the story is the story. You know, some of the attempts to bring story to digital media are having the option of having different endings. Like, okay, here's a story. Sometimes you have options of choice in a story. Do you go this way or do you go that way? And if you go this way, the story changes. And if you go this way, the story changes. And the wonderful things about that is you could go back to it and try another way and try another way. And I think that is a possible metaphor for playing with our story. What do we play with our story? Oh, gosh. We take it so seriously. And it's not that it's not serious, but what's the story I wish I had? Do you ever try that? You know, people write their eulogies, and the eulogy is expressing the story we lived. But what if we write a prelogy? I don't know. Prelogy? What if we write the story I wish I'd lived, or the story I wish I'm living? What's the story I wish I'm living? What would that be? Prayer. Well, that's very good. That's a topic for next Spiritual Saturday, but no. No, in a lot of ways, that is what New Thought considers to be prayer. Prayer is rewriting our story. Prayer is stepping into the story we wish to live, and prayer is stepping into the story we choose to live. And it's a risky thing. And I'll tell you why it's a risky thing, because we tend to select our stories from the level of our story rather than from the level of the one in us, through us, that created our story. And when we choose a different story in prayer, from the level of our story, we will always wind up exactly where we began. Even if we get whatever it is, we don't get where we thought we'd get. And this is really the most challenging thing about the law of attraction, about positive prayer, about imagery, visual imagery. It's like, who is choosing the what and the who and the how we're living? And where's the greater presence behind our story, who chose our story to allow us to survive? But we keep playing a story that in many ways may be inappropriate for the world we now find ourselves in. What's the story? What's the story? So here's the problem with enlightenment, said a slightly different way. Enlightenment is always present. Awakening is always present. We are not always present. The next step in what we experience on this level as our story is always already here. It's not something we gotta think about. It's not something we gotta worry about. It's something we have to open to. The truth is, all of us know that. It's something we have to relax into, and it's something we have to allow. We were playing this song before you got here. that Stephen didn't know we're going to sing now. Because the words aren't on the screen, but you know the words. And if you don't know the words, pretend. Stephen, do you know what I'm talking about?
The song that we were singing before we started.
Yeah.
Take, oh, take me as I am. Summon out what I shall be. Set your seal upon my heart and live in me. Take, oh, take me as I am. Summon out what I shall be. Set your seal upon my heart and live in me. Take, oh, take me as I am. Summon out what I shall be. Set your seal upon my heart and live in me.
The terrible instructions. To get to where we already are, to open to who we already are, we have to stop trying. We actually have to stop doing. The Psalm verse is not an accident when it says, Harpu du'u ki anochi Elohim. Be still. Stop. So that you can know that the I awakening through you is God. There's nowhere to get. There's nowhere to go. There's everywhere to be. We are living a precious story. If you're anything like me, you love to tell your story. If you're anything like me, you wind up telling the same parts of your story to the same person who you think you've never told it to before. And sometimes those special people are so kind, they let you tell it again. And we get to a place when we hear each other doing that we realize it's not the content. It's however that story is being held is being shared. What would the story we would like to tell each other be? In other words, do nothing. Do nothing. I was reading that Bill Gates had the habit, as he was developing the things he was developing, of taking a week off from time to time to do nothing. To do nothing. Not to write anything, or not to develop anything, or not to... There's no agenda. To do nothing, to sit and do nothing. To sit and stop trying to do anything. Einstein, in the outline of his transformational theory of relativity, it came in a dream. Not trying, not doing. What if we just allow ourselves to be? It is so anti our consumerist culture. Can you just see how we convince each other how important we are by sharing with each other that we're doing nothing? No, we're important because we're so busy. I, of course, do nothing of the kind. And it's kind of built in, you know. It's what a lot of us grew up with. It's a lot of it, what a lot of us learned was, this is how we know we're important. And it confirms for us exactly the opposite. It's just so interesting. I believe there's nothing more important than awakening. There's actually a period after that. It's not awakening to, it's not awakening for. There's nothing more important than realizing the who that we are. And the only way I know to do that, incidentally, those of you who have heard me know that I say, do not trust anyone who tells you the only way. However, the only way to do it is with love. Because the truth of the matter is, love is not something we do. It's again, I mean, yes, we do, but that's a particular love. It could be precious, it could be wonderful. But the love we do is different from the love we are. And the love we are is always an opening. It's always an expanding. And it's not something we can try to do. It's not something we can study to do. Because we're there already. We're here already. Darn it. I'm sorry, ego. It doesn't go like this, step, 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 step. Then no. It's this constant flow in every moment. My eye is expanding, my eye is contracting. My eye is expanding, my eye is contracting. It's just like the eye. I mean, if you look, light comes, the eye gets small, the pupil gets smaller, then it expands. Meditation, doing nothing, is like an eye drop that dilates the eye. Because what is that? That's the eye relaxing, the eye letting go. Love is not something we do, it's something we are. And it's not a feeling. The love that we are is not a feeling. It's a state of being. And when we remember that, we have freedom to play with our story. Because in that state, we're no longer owned by our story. We own our story. The rules, it's like the rules of grammar. They don't operate in the same way. There are untold stories already taking place within and through each and every one of us. It's not, can I find the story? It's like, what story needs to be expressed now? What story needs to be lived now? Will it be my forever story? God, I hope not. Because that's just getting locked into another story. What story needs to be? And the only way I know to unlock my attachment to my current story is to love it. Because loving it in that way is letting it be exactly as it is, not needing it to be any different. That kind of loving I-ness is a yesness. It's a kind of acceptance that transcends the ego, yes, no, and is an embrace. It's always here. Do you know what song that was?
I was trying to pick it up.
Do you know what song that was? No. Your assignment so I'd like to invite you to share with me the timing was, we've been rehearsing this. Sherry, you can stay, but your phone has to. Anybody else who has a tune you'd like to share before our meditation? So I'd like to invite you into a space, a loving meditation, a love meditation. So it's not anything you need to do. It's just something that we're going to remember together. Even though each and every one of us will remember it in our own way. And we're going to enter in with a Hebrew word to chant. The Hebrew word for love is ahava. Ahava. I mean, you can just hear it. Ah, ha, va. It's one of the confirming things for me about the treasures of different spiritual paths, because in Sanskrit, the word for love, bliss, is ananda. You know, it's like from very different traditions. How do you say love? You say love with ah. Ah. So the chant is on a single breath, ah, ha, va, ah, ha, va. So please take that energy and imagine that it itself is a doorway. And the doorway is into you. Into I. Behind your eyes and behind your eyes. So please take a breath. Once more. And the invites us to meet every sensation with yes, to meet every thought simply with yes, to meet every feeling with yes. There's nothing to do but open to a natural, complete, affirming acceptance. Every thought, every judgment is exactly as it needs to be in this moment. Every sensation and perception, every feeling, every memory, every hope, every dream, even every should, even every judgment, simply is what it is. Everything that arises is greeted with yes. Yes, I know. Whatever appears to be in the way is the way. Waiting to be known and waiting to be simply accepted. Our acceptance of what is our acceptance of what was, frees us. It's as if there's a voice already singing to us that says, I love you. I love you exactly as you are. There is nothing to do. There is only to be. There is nothing to do. There is only to remember. Remember the one behind the story. Remember the one behind the creator of the story. Remember the one who simply is loving, yearning to be expressed, yearning to embrace it all. Because in that embrace, we are freed from the shackles of story. In that embrace, the fuller story finds its way through us, through us, through us. Because love is the way.
Love is the way to God. Love is the way of God. Listen to the word of love within. Listen to the word of love within your heart. Love is the way to God. Love is the way of God. Listen to the word of love within. Listen to the word of love within your heart. Love is the way to God.
It's amazing to me how the story changes even in the midst of a mourning. Because according to the story, we already sang this song. And here it's still to come. But we got to sing it because we got to remember who we are. What continually astonishes me when I look at an ancient spiritual language, stories, scripture, is not all the material that is no longer relevant. It doesn't surprise me that there's a whole different culture, a whole different way of life. What surprises me are those statements that just, like, how did they know? Who told them? Like, if we only had a couple of those things, that's all we'd need. Moses said, "What's God's name?" And people say, well, maybe Jehovah or Ralph. And the name that was heard was, I am as I am. The universe opens its eye. And that absolutely universal, absolutely inclusive, absolutely eternal I expresses through each and every particular I. Through every particular living being, to whatever extent and whatever capacity that being can hold. So a lot of you know the song. The problem with this song is that it needs to be sung standing up.
So y'all listen to me, you'll stay with me, and you stay with them.
You need the microphone.
And you guys can start.
Yeah. Ready? Ehiyeh asher ehiyeh, ehiyeh asher ehiyeh. I am as I am, ehiyeh asher ehiyeh, ehiyeh asher ehiyeh, ehiyeh asher ehiyeh. I am as I am.
I'll have to work on that ending a little bit.
We did really well. It took at least two of us to
keep up with this guy. Yep.
To both join in our closing here, it might be good if you kind of clustered together. And you're going to have an opportunity to sing Hallelujah. And the Hallelujah that goes with this is like a Paco bell Hallelujah.
In fact, let's do that first. We'll do the Hallelujah first. Hallelujah. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is all around, love is all around. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is all around, love is all around. Okay, so that's the big part. So if most of you can stay on that, and a few of you could like to do the.
Is it around?
No, let's do everywhere then. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. We can do that. And then a few of you will do the Hallelujah. We can do this. Yeah. You do the Hallelujah. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Love is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere. Love is all around. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is all around. Love is all around. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. There is so much magnificence
it's true. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere we allow it in. In the embrace of love, we most fully live. In the embrace of love. We most fully remember. In the embrace of love, we most fully heal. In the embrace of love, we most fully embrace. I'm so deeply grateful for each and every one of you who allowed this spiritual Saturday to be. I am so grateful to Stephen Merritt and Steve Mason. We don't have to applaud because it's bigger than applause. Just remember that we love them. May each of us find ways of walking this love into our world. May we each find clearer ways of walking this love into our stories. May we each find ways of gently remembering that we're already exactly where we need to be. We're already doing exactly what we need to be doing. We're already with exactly the ones we need to be with. And we already are exactly the ones we need to be. We'll just stand here in this energy for as long as possible. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. If anybody has forgotten to contribute as they came in, that really helps us continue these events.
There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere, love is everywhere. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere, love is everywhere. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere, love is everywhere. There is so much magnificence in humanity. Love is everywhere, love is everywhere, love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba bam. Ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim, ya ba ya ba bam. Oh ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bam. Ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bam. Rich. Oh ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba ya ba bim bam, ya ba bim bam, ya ba bam. Stay open to the love that constantly surrounds me. May my heart stay open to the love that constantly surrounds me. May my heart stay open to the love. May my heart stay open to the love. May my heart stay open to the love that constantly surrounds me. Sing it with me. May my heart stay open to the love that constantly surrounds me. It's always here. May my heart stay open to the love that constantly surrounds me. May my heart stay open to the love. May my heart stay open to the love. May my heart stay open to the love constantly surrounds me.